Hi everyone, welcome to this Tutor to You BTEC National Revision live stream. Tonight we're doing Unit 4, Inquiries into Current Research, and we're going to be looking at interviews and focus groups. I'm here with Lynn. Hi Lynn.
Hi everyone, Happy New Year. Thanks
Happy
for
New Year
joining us.
to you everyone. Okay, so your exam is in 8 days' time, I believe, so we really need to step up our revision. Hopefully everyone got some rest over the Christmas break, but did a little bit of revision as well. Okay, shall we get straight to it, Lynn?
Yeah, let's have a look.
Okay, so our first activity is a give me 4 activity. So as ever, I want you to type your answers into the chat. We're going to give you 30 seconds, there's a musical timer, and I want you to give me 4 different types of interview. Okay, so I'll start the timer now.
Hold on, while we're waiting. So just type in the chat different types of interview that you can think of. What kind of different types of format might they take, for example?
Hopefully we'll have a lively group, Lynn, like we did for Unit 1 earlier.
Yes, don't be shy. There's never any wrong answers here, just ways for us to help develop your knowledge. So just have a go and see what you think. So anybody going to give us a different type of interview that you can think of?
Okay, nothing so far, Lynn. Do you want to start us off with one type of interview?
Okay, so my favourite type of interview, Liz, is an unstructured interview.
Okay.
Because I think you've got the opportunity to kind of go wherever you want to go with it. So there's no structure to it. You might have some predetermined questions that you're going to ask, but then you can kind of go wherever the respondent takes you. You can ask follow-up questions. There's an opportunity for the participants to elaborate.
Yep.
So I really like unstructured.
I can see Evie has also said unstructured, so she is in your camp there, Lynn. Evie, can you think of like a sort of like the opposite of an unstructured interview? So what would be the direct opposite of an unstructured interview? And Lynn, I'm going to ask you, there's something in between, isn't there? So not fully unstructured. What's that one called?
So you can have a semi-structured interview. Okay. So that means that you probably do have an interview schedule to follow. And you probably want to stick to that in, relatively good order, but you probably do have some leeway to be able to ask follow-up questions. So you might have a script that you're following, certain things that you need to stick to, but you don't have to be really rigid. Okay. But also you don't go off on massive tangents either.
Yep. So Evie did correctly answer my question. So the opposite of an unstructured is a structured interview. So that means we've got three. We've got unstructured, semi-structured and structured. And then what is the fourth type of interview? It doesn't have interview in its title. Does anyone at home know what it is before I ask Lynn? You might have actually, as students take part in these quite often, don't they? In school, maybe to give some feedback on your experiences, maybe of a lesson or some other activity that happened at your school. You may have even done it with Ofsted inspectors if you've been lucky enough to have them in your school.
So any ideas? A few more people join us. Yeah. Don't be shy, write in the chat.
So we've got structured, semi-structured, unstructured interviews, and then the fourth type, do we know? Lynn, tell us what it is.
Yes, so it's a group interview, which could also be known as a focus group. So yes, so that's an interview that just has lots of different people involved in it, essentially. So there we go. Yeah, brilliant.
Okay.
So
let's move on to the bubble quiz, Lynn. Would you like to do this one?
Let's have a look. Yeah, sure. So welcome if you've just joined us. We're looking at interviews and focus groups this evening. So we've got the answers to this question could range from none of the bubbles being correct, or one or two or three, or all four could be correct. Okay, so we want you to write in the chat whether you think it's A, B, C or D, or which combination to the answers. Okay, so which of the following are practical strengths of interviews? Okay, so I want you to write if you think it's A, put A, or if you think it's A, C, and D, put that, for example, in the chat. So time-consuming and costly on a large scale, can monitor body language and non-verbal cues, can clarify questions not understood by the respondents, and time is required to transcribe and analyse the interview. Okay, so we're thinking about practical strengths, and strengths is the emphasis there. Okay, so which of these are practical strengths? What would you put in the chat with your answer? I'd love everybody to be tapping away for us this evening to help your revision. So which of those are you going to go with, do you think?
I think it's worth saying at this point, Lynn, that this would support you in activity 1 if interviews were in your pre-release material, but also maybe in activity 4 where you get your unseen case study. You don't know what research methods are going to be in the unseen case study in activity 4 in your exam. It could be interviews. So you may need to talk about the practical strengths or weaknesses of interviews in your exam. Okay. We recommend that you look at practical, ethical and theoretical. I might type that in the chat in a moment, Lynn, if you want to maybe start going through these answers.
Yeah, so think about them. So if we're thinking about if something are practical strength, time consuming and costly on a large scale. So that doesn't sound like it's a strength to me. Okay, so I'm not feeling like that's a strength. That actually sounds like a negative, time consuming and costly. Can monitor body language and non-verbal cues. That actually feels like does feel like a strength if you're in an interview and you can monitor what people are doing, how they're responding to you, their facial expressions, whether they're bit twitchy, or, you know, whether they seem really comfortable, then that could be really good for your interview. So that does sound like a practical strength to me. C, can clarify questions not understood by the respondent. So that does sound like another practical strength, doesn't it? So if you're answering questions and someone doesn't quite know what you mean, they can say, oh, can you repeat the question? Could you rephrase the question? As the interviewer, you can say things in a different way. So that's really positive. And then, so I would say that is a strength. And then time is required to transcribe and analyse the interview. So that doesn't sound like a strength to me. That sounds like a weakness, that actually it could take quite a long time. So Liz, should we have a look? Am I correct? Is it B and C? That's what my answer is. Yes, absolutely.
Well done,
so very practical and very much strengths. Okay, so think about that if you're talking about interviews in your exam. Okay, brilliant. So let's have a look at these then. So which of these are ethical strengths? Okay, so we've just looked at practical strengths of interviews. Now let's look at ethical ones. So an appropriate way to research sensitive issues. Informed consent is easy to obtain. Rapport can be developed putting the respondent at ease. It can be conducted in familiar environments. So anybody going to hazard a guess in the chat? What are you thinking? Which of these are ethical strengths? Is it just one? Is it two? Is it three? Or is it all four of them? Which of these feel ethical to you? Okay.
Shall I talk through my feelings about these, Lynn?
I would love you to. Go on, Liz, tell me.
Okay, so A, an appropriate way to research sensitive issues. I think it definitely could be, because if I am face-to-face with a person, especially if it's one-to-one, they may feel more at ease and comfortable discussing sensitive things with me in a one-to-one situation, rather than if it was in a group situation, or maybe if they were filling out a questionnaire. I can also kind of determine if they are upset or triggered by anything in the interview, and then I can signpost them. The only thing I would say on that is it could be a little bit intimidating to talk about sensitive issues one-to-one. So I would have to bear that in mind, and maybe I would need to do some work as the interviewer to establish a nice rapport with my participant, my interviewee. I can definitely obtain their consent. I can ask them directly, do you consent to this? Explain how I'm going to use their information. You know, it's a really nice way to get informed consent of my participants. So 100% with that one. C, that links to what I just said about A. I can develop a rapport with people. I can really put them at ease. I might start off my interview with some kind of nice, easy introductory questions just to settle everyone's nerves before getting into the nitty gritty. And yeah, they can be conducted in familiar environments. So I could go to the person, we could meet in a neutral place, or we could even do it online, so they're from the comfort of their home. So I think, Lynn, that they're all ethical strengths of interviews.
Okay, I think they're an excellent response there, Liz. Well done.
Okay.
And I'd quite like if you pull out those ethical things: sensitivity, consent, rapport. They're all ethical related sort of type issues, aren't they?
Yeah.
Let's have a look. Yay! Excellent.
Good thing I'm correct.
Yeah, well done.
Okay, let's have a look at the next one. And I've typed in the chat, always for activity 1, look at practical, ethical and theoretical strengths and weaknesses of your research methods. And in activity 4, you can do the same again, can't you?
Yeah, brilliant. So we've been looking at interviews. So let's now think about unstructured interviews. Okay, we've been looking at advantages. We're now going to look at some limitations or disadvantages, for example. So which of these are limitations to using unstructured interviews? Okay, so which of these kind of the negative side of it really we're looking at now? They are not standardized and therefore lack reliability as not replicable. The researcher may be subjective in their reading of the respondent. Okay, so that means if they're trying to understand what the respondent's doing, it's very much the interviewer's opinion of how they're responding. It's how they feel about the person. Provides large amounts of qualitative data rich in insight into meanings and motivations, and difficult to generalise as often performed on a small scale. So which of these do you think are limitations or negatives? Okay, so we're not looking for positives, we're looking for more limitations. And unstructured interview as well. So that, that's one where you've got a lot of freedom to be able to going where you want to go. Liz, I might get you to talk me through what you think about these as well.
I would definitely encourage people at home to type their answers whilst I talk through. I'm going to start with D, because I think that's the easiest one to understand. So difficult to generalise is often performed on a small scale. I think that is a limitation, because unstructured interviews, they take a long time to do. Maybe it might take an hour, maybe more to do my interview. Depends how many questions I have, depends how many questions the interviewee has to ask me about consent and the purpose of their information. And then once I've done the interview, I've got to read it all back, or watch it back, or listen to it again and transcribe it. So that's going to take me a long time. So I'm only going to do a few interviews, which does mean that I can't generalise it to the bigger population. It's only relevant to that one person, really, isn't it? If I'm doing an in-depth unstructured interview. So that is a limitation. I'm going to link that to A. So an unstructured interview is not normally standardised. I could still have an interview schedule and ask everyone the same questions, perhaps. However, because the person's free to say whatever they like in response, they're not going to all give me the same response. So I'm not going to easily be able to replicate those results, am I? Because if every time I interview a different person, they're going to give me different information. Also, the beauty of doing an unstructured interview is if one of my respondents says something really interesting that I haven't thought about, I'm going to explore that. And I might not have explored that with the previous 3 people that I interviewed. So, I am going to ask them different questions. So I think that's another limitation. Then they're not as reliable because I can't repeat them easily. B, the researcher may be subjective in their reading. Yeah, so when I watch back or listen back or read back through my interview, I'm putting my own thoughts and feelings into that, which can be really beneficial, but it does mean that it's subjective to me and my interaction with that person, and it's not an objective measure. And then C, I think, is not a limitation. I think that's actually a strength. So if I'm doing a qualitative study and I'm using unstructured interviews, I've chosen that method hopefully because I want to produce large amounts of qualitative data, and I want to get loads of insight into why people feel the way they do, how they feel, some of their reasonings, their meanings, their motivations. So that's actually a strength rather than a limitation. Although you could say if you've got a huge amount of data, that could be a limitation because it could take me years to write up my research study.
Yeah. Excellent. Yes. So Yay. Well done, Liz. So we've got A, B and D are correct there. Well done. Excellent. So do feel free to write in the chat. This one's a punchy one. So we're going to show you some clues. And we want you to think about what is hidden behind the question mark using the clues. Okay, they'll pop up on the screen. As soon as you think you know, feel free to write in the chat. So remember, today's interviews and focus groups, this is the theme. So anything related to those things. Shall we have a look at our first clue? So the first thing is it's an issue related to qualitative research. Okay, so that's research to do with feelings, motivations behind behaviour, those kind of things. And this question mark is an issue related to that.
Okay, so it could be something practical, couldn't it? Or it could be ethical, or it could be theoretical.
Be a theoretical issue, yeah.
So theoretical ones are things that affect like the validity and the reliability of the research. The ethical ones are like, confidentiality, sensitive issues, informed consent, and the practical ones are like how long it takes, what equipment you need, what skills you need, etc. Okay, shall we have a look at the next clue then?
So it's an issue related to qualitative research, and it could cause individuals to refrain from disclosing information. Okay, interesting. So you might be in an interview or question. You might be in an interview or focus group, and this thing might cause you to refrain from giving information across to the researcher.
Yeah. I think that could be practical, ethical, or theoretical as well. Okay, let's have a look at the next one.
Yeah. It's linked to characteristics such as race, gender, behaviour, style, social status, and personality. Okay, so it's an issue that's going to stop me from wanting to disclose information, and it's linked to all of those kind of characteristics. Interesting. Okay.
Okay, so
Let's keep
let me
revealing.
let me tell you what I'm thinking at the moment, Lynn. I'm thinking it's either something to do with me as an interviewer, or if it was a focus group, the other people in the group.
Okay.
Because you're talking about characteristics of a person, so it's either the researcher or the participants.
Yeah, so something that's influencing you. But it can be reduced, this issue. So it can be reduced by using fixed wording questions. Okay, so rather than you and I, Liz, going off and doing interviews separate with people and you asking questions in the way that you want to ask them and me asking similar questions but in the way I want to ask them, this issue can be reduced if you and I use exactly the same wording.
Okay. So now I think that means it's related to the researcher rather than the participants then.
Okay, nice. And the impact that interviewers can have on individuals. Okay, so you're absolutely right when you're talking about it's something that the interviewer might have. Mm-hmm. Anybody want to hazard a guess in the chat? This is an issue. It's going to stop you maybe giving across loads of information. You might be influenced by the interviewer in terms of their race, gender, behaviour, style, social status. You can mitigate it by using some fixed wording questions, but the issue could be... Any ideas?
I think everyone's being really quiet.
I think they are a bit quiet. No, let's have a look then. We'll reveal it. Let's do it. Interviewer bias. Yeah, absolutely. So the interviewer really does have the ability to influence the outcome of an interview by, some things that just by being themselves and who they are. And it's how the person that's being interviewed responds to that, but also in a way that they might, put across their personality, or they might put different emphasis on different questions, and that can very much influence whether or not a respondent's really open or whether they're quite closed with their responses. So, interviewer bias is a real negative of unstructured interviews in particular. Yeah.
I guess it could be a problem, couldn't it, if there was like a power imbalance between the interviewer and the people they were interviewing. So, a teacher interviewing their own students, there is a bias there, isn't there? There's naturally going to be. Okay, let's have a look at the next one then. Another big reveal. Okay, the first clue: may conceal their true opinions or experiences. Any thoughts on this, Lynn?
So, well, sort of similar to that. So, I mean, it seems to me like an issue again, actually, that's something that might prevent maybe me as the respondent giving my true opinions or experiences.
Okay. Often observed in studies that focus on sensitive or personal topics.
Okay. So I might be being interviewed, or I might be in a focus group, and actually it's quite a sensitive topic, or actually quite personal to me. Therefore, I feel quite worried about maybe saying what I think, or being really honest and open.
Yeah.
So
could link to what I said earlier about maybe if there's a power imbalance between the person conducting the interview, say a teacher doing student voice with students, maybe that could be the situation. Yeah. So it can affect the validity of the research. So how true the results represent the phenomena you're wanting to look at. So if I was a teacher interviewing students about their experience of my lesson, I want to know how good was my lesson, but students might conceal their true opinions because of this, I think.
Yeah, they might tell you what they think you want to hear.
Yeah. So participants present themselves in socially acceptable terms. Yeah, so maybe if, say I was doing a health interview, and I was asking about what Lynn has eaten and drank over the Christmas period, she might tell me what she thinks I want to hear, which is that she didn't consume lots of Christmas pudding and lots of Christmas cake and lots of chocolates.
Yes.
And it's a type of response bias. So does anyone at home know what this is? I'll give you a moment to type, otherwise I think Lynn should be able to tell me. So it's about concealing true opinions or experiences. Often happens when you're looking at sensitive or personal topics, can affect the results. People representing themselves in socially acceptable terms. Tell us what it is, Lynn.
Well, I think the answers are all hidden in there. So social desirability bias. So that is essentially saying things that are socially acceptable. So when you ask me about what I've been doing over Christmas, I'm actually going to try and give you an answer that sounds a bit more socially acceptable. Oh, I only had a little bit of Christmas cake and, I only ate Christmas pudding on Christmas Day, for example, rather than telling you that I've been gorging on chocolate and biscuits every evening whilst watching Christmas movies. So, social desirability bias, it really does affect the validity of research, because you're not getting a true picture of what people think. They're telling you what they think you want to hear. And Evie's written in the chat, Hawthorne effect. So that's sort of, often social desirability bias and Hawthorne effect get muddled up, actually.
We do have some activities on that, I think, Lynn.
Yeah, we'll come and talk about that a bit more. So thanks for flagging that, Evie. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay, so true or false, unstructured interviews are a valid method of research. Is this true or is this false? Evie, what do you think? Are unstructured interviews a valid method of research? So remember, unstructured interviews, we're not going to follow a schedule necessarily. Participants can freely give as much information as they like in their answer. So does this make it valid? Does this make it a true representation of what we're trying to study? I'm aware that we're running a little bit short of time, so I am going to reveal the answer.
Go for it. It's true. Yay. Brilliant.
Yep. So unstructured interviews have a high level of validity, as the respondent can disclose whatever they're comfortable with, the researcher can interpret the individual's meanings and motivations, and they can gain a really good insight into the experience of others. So it does make them really nicely valid. Okay, structured interviews. So that's when we're going to follow a schedule. We may even provide some of the answers for respondents to choose from. So structured interviews are a reliable method of research. So remember, reliability links to I can't say it, Lynn. How do you say it?
Yeah, I know. I couldn't say it either. So whether you can replicate your answers later on, let's say it like that. That's easier. Yeah.
Yes. So reliability links to whether we can replicate this if we did it in the same conditions with similar people. So is this statement true or false? And I am going to reveal. True. Yeah, it is true. Yeah.
Excellent.
Because you're standardising your questions, you're also standardising your interviewer. So if Lynn and I were both doing interviews in this research study, we would be standardised. We would be given the same questions to ask in the same order, with the same answers to choose from. So we can replicate this with other samples, and we have high reliability. Okay, so the lineup. You've got A, B, C or D held up on those cards there. I'm going to give you some clues, and I want to know which one of those is being described. So I'm going to give you some key features. Evie, see if you can have a go at this one at home. So clue 1, the researcher can obtain informed consent through directly asking respondents. So what do we think out of those options?
Could be any of those potentially. I mean, maybe not questionnaires if you're just posting it online, or if you're, sending it in the post, you're not directly asking the respondents because you're not there. Mm-hmm. But I think with A, B and D, you're there in the room, aren't you? So you can make sure everyone's happy to be involved.
And to be honest, C, I could be doing that on the street with my clipboard.
You could.
Still happens,
saying, can you just fill out my questionnaire for me, please? Yeah.
Or so I could knock on your door and say, could I, have 5 minutes of your time? Okay, so clue 2, they're used to gather a range of opinions in a short space of time. So this is a time-efficient method. We've got Kaysen, he's saying B, unstructured interviews. Okay, so now we've given you this next clue, Kaysen. Do you think the same, or would you change it? So a short space of time, so something that's quick to do. Do we think unstructured interviews are quick to do?
probably not. And participant observation, that can also take a relatively amount of time, doesn't it? Sort of sitting there observing people and you're getting involved
Okay.
as well.
Kaysen's changed his answer to D, focus groups. Okay.
Okay. Let's have a
Next
look.
clue. Some individuals may conform to the ideas of more dominant personalities. Okay. I'm liking Kaysen's answer now in relation to this clue. So this is like a group of people. Yeah, definitely getting group vibes. Okay, so clue 4. Use group dynamics to get shared experiences of people with similar characteristic. Yeah, Kaysen, well done. I'm going to give you a round of applause. Yeah.
And reveal it's focus groups.
Yeah.
Yes, well done. Excellent.
Okay, so
they can be really good, can't they?
Yeah, they can.
Well, let's have a look at the advantages of them. Yay!
Yeah, so we'll give you 30 seconds to give us some advantages of focus groups. So positives, good things, benefits of focus groups.
I'm going to start thinking now. I've just said they can be really good, so you're going to ask me in a minute, aren't you? Why are they really good? I quite like being in a focus group, actually. Quite enjoy being part of them. Quite a good research method, actually, and used quite widely, I would say, as well in health and social care. Yeah.
Okay, I can see some have come through. So, Kaysen says you can analyse them easily. They can be semi-structured and face-to-face. Evie's saying you can get multiple opinions in the same forum quite quickly. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Any more that you can think of, Lynn?
Brilliant. I mean, I think some people feel a lot more comfortable in a group setting. So young people feel a bit more comfortable quite often being with their peers because, rather than one-to-one where it can feel a little bit intimidating. So that can be a real positive.
Okay. We've definitely got 3 then, haven't we? Let's have a look. So on the screen, you can obtain large amounts of information from a range of respondents in a relatively quick time. Yep, well done, guys. Semi-structured format. So you've got flexibility to ask follow-up questions. Yeah, so, if people in the group start saying something that you're not expecting, well, you can explore that with them because they're right there in front of you. You can get a wider range of respondents, so it can be more representative of wider society. Yeah. And I agree with what you said, Lynn. People are often more confident in a group setting. So it can give people the confidence to talk. So I think the next one is disadvantages. So can we think of some disadvantages? I'll give you 30 seconds.
Okay. And maybe think about the flip side to what I've just said as an advantage. Have a think about that. Often focus groups are used alongside other methods as well, actually, not always in isolation. They're often quite a good additional method, you might see.
Okay, so I'm hoping that Evie and Kaysen are going to come up with some stuff. Okay, Kaysen says you might have limited responses and the validity might be low and the reliability might be low. Can you expand on any of those? So why might the validity be low? What could happen in a focus group that could throw off the truthfulness of your information? And
I was just going to...
Go on then.
I was going to say with the limited responses, you might find just on the flip side of what I say, people might feel a bit intimidated in a group, mightn't they? They might be more likely to give socially desirable answers because they don't want to be seen.
Evie's saying they could give answers to please the interviewer and also peer pressure. So you could be pressured into giving an answer that actually you don't believe in, but you're doing it because that's what everyone else is saying. Group. Yeah,
you don't want to be seen as different. And then that's not a true picture, is it? So lower validity.
So let's have a look at what we've got. Yep, so the presence of others might restrict you or limit you in what information you're willing to give. Unlikely to be reliable because you get a wide range of responses, so it's hard to replicate. Discussion of socially sensitive issues, yeah, that's what Kaysen's just said, is less likely in the presence of other individuals. People might feel exposed or embarrassed or stigmatized. So yeah, like focus groups give with one hand and take away with the other, don't they?
Yeah, very much so, very much so. But the good one to discuss advantages and disadvantages with in activity 1, if you have it as one,
Yeah, or if it's in your unseen case study for activity 4 as well.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, why is my screen not working? Here we go. So tug of war. Which team would win this tug of war? And our question is, which are more effective when used in qualitative research? Open questions or closed questions? I'm sure Eve and Kaysen both know the answer to this. So qualitative research, we want to know why people are doing things, their reasons, their explanations, their motivations, their feelings, their thoughts, their opinions. So do we want to ask them open questions where they can respond with anything they like, or closed questions where we give them 3 options? And Kaysen is straight in with A there.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and Evie's come back with closed. So we have got a debate on our hands here.
We have. Okay, let's see what we've got on the screen then. Okay, so having open questions means that you can have really nice, deeply valid data because people can give an infinite number of responses. Whereas closed questions are actually more suitable, Evie, for quantitative research, where you want to know how often, how many, how frequently, in how much volume. So those questions need to be closed because, for example, if you want to know how often Lynne exercises, I want to give her some very specific numbers.
Parameters.
Parameters. So that then I can ask other people and compare Lynne's amount of activity to other people's activity. But if I want to know why Lynne chooses to go to yoga, then I need to ask open questions because she might have many reasons that I've not thought of before. Okay, so that's the key difference here. Okay, word smash I think is our last activity, isn't it, Lynne?
Yeah.
So we want to know.
These are fun.
Yeah, we want to know what is the picture showing. So what word is that picture showing? And then what word is that sentence explaining? Smash them together and make a new word. So have a look at the picture. What is the picture? What is the sentence? And smash them together. Let's see how you go. So it's a blue man.
Yeah. But what can we see? It's his showing something. And then on the other way is how do we communicate?
We talk.
What do we use to communicate? We do talk, but what do we use?
I think I've got it, Lynne.
Countries might vary between countries.
Is it body language?
It's body language. Yes, we can see it's his body on the left.
So body language is important in interviews, isn't it? Because we can observe someone's body language.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, next one. So
the thing left.
There's a door, we can see through it. And then a sentence worded or expressed so as to elicit information. Okay, I think I know what this is.
I'm going to go with a type of question that you might ask in an interview or, well, definitely in a focus group.
Yeah.
Is it open question?
I think you're correct. It is.
Yes, so people can give as much information as they want. It allows them to elaborate.
Kaysen got it as well. Well done.
Well done, Kaysen. Excellent.
Okay, I think this is the last one. It's my absolute favourite of all time. Lynne made this one and she's a genius. So the definition is a musical style in which rhyming speech is chanted to musical accompaniment. So that's one word. And then
you must know that, surely.
What is that picture showing? And I can see lots of boats. I can see cranes. I can see a dock. I can see the boats with lots of containers in them. So can we smash those 2 words together and make a new word? A musical style in which rhyming speech is chanted to musical accompaniment. I'm trying to think of some examples of who does this type of music that you guys know, because I'm much older than you at home.
Yeah. Well, it's not drill music. It's not
grime.
R&B music. Yeah, not grime, not drill,
not
R&B. It's not pop.
Not
what type
folk,
of music
not
might
country.
be? Any ideas? And on the right, the picture, what is that as a whole? They're going into somewhere.
Where
I
boats
don't know if anyone's
dock.
going to get it. Right.
Come on, I want someone to get it. Okay, Kaysen says rap. Yes, it is rap.
So
and then what is the other one?
Right? And then you put it together and it makes a word. Go on, Kaysen, you can get it.
And it's
something
a word
that we want to build. We want to build
Evie's
it
got
in an
it.
interview.
Evie's got it.
Evie!
She says rapport. Well done. Brilliant.
Excellent,
Round of
Evie.
applause. It is rapport. Well done, guys. Right. I just need to check my notes so I don't give you wrong information. Okay, so we are back doing Unit 4 on Monday, which is the 8th of January at 5 p.m, okay? I know normally we do 6 p.m. for Unit 4, but it's going to be Monday the 8th at 5 p.m. and we're going to do observations and experiments. And then your exam is on the 10th, okay? So have fun revising over the next week for Unit 4. If you're doing Unit 2 or 3, join us tomorrow. Unit 2 at 5 p.m, Unit 3 at 6 p.m. And yeah, best of luck, guys. Lovely to see you. Well done. Take care. See you again soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.